What's up, everybody? I hope you're having a great day. And if you read the title of this video and you've been following along with the vlog, you know that real estate has kind of been a big deal with me and Samantha. We've done a lot of it. It's been a part of this channel. I've talked about my ups and downs in real estate. Me and Samantha put together a portfolio of about $530,000 worth of properties with 5 houses. And if you followed along, you know we've started selling them off. So I came to the conclusion the other day, after looking at the way the market was going and the political uncertainty and everything that's going on, what should I do? And I said, you know what? I need to sell some of my rental properties. So that's exactly what I decided to do. I looked at the landscape of the battlefield, as we used to say in the Army, and said, you know what? I need to take some risk off and raise some cash. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you the reasons why I'm selling some of my rental properties, why I think now is the time to do it, and there needs to be some real fast action taken on our behalf. So here we go, everybody. I'm gonna tell you the reasons why I'm getting into these things, what my plan is for the future, and how is real estate gonna fit in my portfolio from here on. I know this is a little different video than I usually do, but this is kind of the serious side of what I've done on YouTube, because document our experiences on this channel, the things we've messed up, the things we've learned from, and I've always liked to share that with y'all. So you can kind of learn from my mistakes and kind of figure out the craziness that is with buying and flipping and holding and renting a real estate. To break these properties down, one was my original rental, which I bought here in Navy Point for $67,000. We've moved into it now. The market has gone up dramatically, and it's worth about $180,000 because of the recent sales here in the neighborhood. All these properties I bought with the earnings from YouTube and from some of my savings in the Army. I bought 2 more on the west side of Pensacola, which rent for about $925 and $825. Samantha's house in Milton, which was worth about $160,000. I think we actually got $162 for it when we sold it. So she profited about 54 and some change thousand dollars. The 2 on the west side I picked up for $50,000 a piece, which I've talked about here on this channel. Paid cash for them, and that's how I got them at such a good deal. Sometimes when you pay cash, you can get them a lot cheaper, and your margin will get a little bigger, and you can just make deals a little sweeter. I've learned with these properties, you gotta steal them if you're gonna get them. You gotta use a property manager, and cash is king, because that's just how I've always gone about this. I did leverage one, which is the one I bought here, and then I wound up paying it off. Samantha's house was bought with a loan, and that's why we got rid of that one too. But the margins on that mortgage were so far apart that since she bought it for $90 and sold it for $162, it was worth holding on to for a little while. And a property in Cantonment, which I bought for $28,000, and it rented for $700 a month. This gave me the ability to sit here and make YouTube videos while collecting passive income off of the money that we had done here on YouTube, and since I didn't need the money, I might as well put it into an asset. All right, so this was my second rental house I ever bought. Rented for $700 recently, and my tenant literally let roaches in everywhere. Look at this, holy smokes. And this was really clean. I put new flooring in it when I got it. It has some crazy blue shag carpet in it. And had a new AC unit put in here. Tim was in here like 3 years. And paid on time, but she's an older lady and literally did nothing. Looks like she broke that. Holy smokes. This thing wasn't 4 concrete block walls, I'd be worried about it. Didn't flood though, I don't see any water damage. I don't see any hurricane damage, just literally roaches everywhere. So keep in mind, when you rent to tenants at the low end of the spectrum, they're not even gonna get rid of the roaches. They're just gonna live in the roaches. And it was part of the rental agreement that they had to spray for roaches. You would think a $9 bottle of roach spray they would just, spray every once in a while, or just keep themselves clean. What could you do to this place? It's 4 concrete block walls and a ceiling and a slab. It's nuts. See, I'm breaking this down into reasons to hold and reasons to sell, right? Because I think that the laws of money have kind of changed. So when I talk about the laws of money changing, the big thing I'm referring to is when the pandemic shut down the economy. We saw some super weird things happen. Because when they froze rents and they froze evictions and they froze, money coming into landlords, we still have to pay taxes, maintenance, and then our maintenance money pays for plumbers, electricians, construction workers, roofers. It pays for everything that basically keeps real estate going. Property managers, realtors, lawyers, insurance agents, like across the board. Like, this is a humongous part of the economy that just halted. And when this used to be a really safe way to make money, now all of a sudden it was questionable. And us as investors didn't know if it was worth keeping the risk on, putting $100,000 on the ground to hopefully get, $11,000 or $12,000 a year, whatever your rents are, you're hoping to get a 10% return. And now all of a sudden the government has halted your ability to get that money. So as an investor, you almost have to stop renovating houses and making places for people to live if the government is going to keep you from being able to get your money, because we'll just be paying for people to live there instead of them paying us. See, the super low interest rates allowed for an explosion in housing prices. Rent rates went through the roof because the hurricane destroyed a lot of properties here, and there was really not a lot of inventory to begin with, really, because of the super low interest rates. So like, people were buying these houses, people were moving in. The economy was doing a lot of stuff here on the Gulf Coast. A lot of old houses were getting renovated, and it created this melting pot of weirdness when you factor in the pandemic, the hurricane. See, when we got ready to sell them, they sold super quick. I mean, we sold the one in Milton in like less than an hour, and I know somebody's gonna say we sold it too cheap, but bulls make money, bears make money, and pigs get slaughtered. And since we had a good profit, we decided to cash out, and it was literally a couple months after the pandemic hit, and we decided to take some risk off the table, pay down debt, and it turned out to be a good idea. And I think that also has to do with my next point of the political environment that we're going into. Whether you go left or right, if we do have a new election of a new president, we are going to see a different tax bracket. We're going to see capital gains change. We're going to see it's going to be hard to get out of these properties in the new year if that does happen. So that was one thing I wanted to really get ahead of. See, I've always bought these properties at a discounted price, properties that were a little distressed, where I had a good margin of error. Usually, 25% upside on these things, to where if I did have to jump out of them or fire sell them or whatever I needed to do, I could do that and still come out ahead. Some of my tenants have decided to leave their lease and then go and live with somebody else. So the tenants are kind of going in together and getting one house. Instead of having one house for each, they're cohabitating in one house, which is kind of, we've had some vacancy rates because of that. It seemed like the political dynamic has made being a landlord not cool anymore. They refer to us as parasites, and there's such a bad taste of people versus landlords. It seems like in society, and it just kind of blows my mind that they would push this, because the only people that are really going into the bad parts of town to renovate these houses and make places for people to live are the investors that are willing to take the risk with their own money to go into these bad places and try to make them nice again. And then they call you a parasite or a leech, and that the politicians are pushing that. And I don't know who, and I hate politics, and I don't ever really try to get into it, but this is just like hitting me in the face that we're all of a sudden bad when we're making places for people to live. Like, I've taken multiple houses that were unlivable, like hot water heaters through the floor, like roaches everywhere, no roof, things like that. Put my money in that I had saved to make a place which is now where somebody wants to live. And, I think that's a great thing. I've always had a passion of taking something that's old and dirty and run down and beat up and making it into something nice and cool again. And I've enjoyed that, and I don't understand why that's become a bad thing or an uncool thing. I just don't understand that. You see, this C virus that has been going on has really changed the contract between me and the tenant, or me and the way real estate really works. See, the government's put itself right in the middle of the contracts with me and the tenant, right? We can't evict really anymore. The moratoriums are coming off and on. You don't really know if we're going to have that again next year, or if this whole virus could circulate back around, and if the economy is going to stay where it's at. Samantha's house, which she had, which is a really nice house, they were one of the first of our tenants to lose their job. So that $1,200 price range, $160,000 house, basically went vacant real fast. They lost their job within weeks of the C virus, and I'm calling it that because I don't want YouTube to tag it. But they lost their job and they couldn't make the rent and they had to move out. But they didn't tell us, which was kind of a funny thing, because they left the house in a mess. They had nothing, nobody cut the grass for months. The dog had messed all in the house and we had to clean it out, and the AC had been off forever. And that was the other part. Property managers it's been really hard to maintain proper management on these properties because the property managers won't go in the properties because of the virus. So Samantha's renters just moved out. They didn't pay for the last month. Look at the grass. They didn't take care of anything. The house isn't the inside's not that bad though, but the yard is a mess. The bad thing about this pandemic is that this range house was the first people to lose their jobs. Check this out. So it allows a lot of these properties to not be managed properly. One of my properties was horribly infested with roaches because you couldn't do quarterly inspections. All right, I just opened this thing up. This tenant was nasty. Holy cow, there's bugs running everywhere. Look, they stole my smoke alarms. They stole that one. They stole that one. There's so many roaches in that thing right there. Always open these bad boys. So many roaches in there. It's crazy. I'm surprised they didn't steal my hot water heater. Look, they even stole my blinds. Samantha's was vacant forever because, I mean, unless they stopped paying, you didn't really know they weren't there. Our outlying properties were the ones that were hard to manage. They were too far away, and even with a property manager, nobody would have ever thought that there would be a virus that you couldn't go and do inspections. So that made it kind of hard. Now to top that on with this crazy hurricane we had that broke a ton of houses, it made building supplies go through the roof if COVID didn't already. And there is an absence of contractors in our area to do the work because there's work everywhere because there's all these broken houses, which made it really hard to restore the houses that had been really messed up by some of our tenants. Even though it was minor stuff, it was hard to get people to go to the outlying properties that we had. See, that brought me into the positives of selling. We've had the hottest market I've ever seen here in Pensacola. There's very little inventory. So seeing that, I knew that I could get rid of some of these properties really fast. All right, so that is a wrap with Samantha's house. Okay, so we listed this thing for $159. It sold in about 2.5 hours. When we were selling this house, we did an as-is contract, and even though it was an as-is contract, they still came back with demands. They wanted an anti-tip bracket that goes underneath the dishwasher to be fixed. It's a $3 item, and the home inspector decided to say, since it was a clean report, that there was an unusual hum coming from the AC unit, which was a year old. And I learned that when a home inspector is hired by the opposition, the buyers, they have to put something down or it looks like they weren't needed. So they will come up with these random little things. It's the piece that goes and keeps this thing firmly secured to the counter. Okay, whatever. since they didn't have them for KitchenAid anywhere in town, I had to go all the way to Milton. We had to hire a guy to cut the yard because we live so far away. And he totally didn't cut the yard, but he said he cut the yard. And not only did he not cut the yard, his lawnmower hit a rock and broke that window right there. So we had to replace that, 250 bucks. Plus the 250 we had to pay him for the yard. And then we had to get this cleaned because we didn't want to spend our Saturday over here cleaning it. And she didn't do the top of the garage. So moving on to the next thing. It's a good house though. We really like living here, but life moves on. I knew I had a good cushion in the amount we could make. It was time to pay down debt because the virus has made such an uncertain financial market going forward. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know who's going to lose their job. We don't know, there's so many uncertainties. That's the reason why we go into a zero debt environment. That's the reason why I tried to get rid of all the debt. I wanted to be in a position where whatever may happen, the hurricane could have taken out the hospital, which would have basically taken Samantha out of a job. And having zero debt would allow us to sit back and make YouTube videos. So you're all ready to do some sanding, huh?
Ready. Jack has me all protected.
Why don't you do your bottom stringy there?
Oh. Oops.
But that being said, we sold off Samantha's house because she had a humongous upside on it. She bought it for like $90,000 and it was worth $160,000. And I knew that we could pay off all of her student loans, which she had about $54,000 worth of student loans. We could pay that off while being newlyweds. So that's what we did. Sold that one. It was the furthest away. Sold it, paid off debt. So we're at the title company. Samantha is closing on her house.
Yep, first house, closing on it 10 years later.
10 years later. It's a fancy building. And then that brought me to my house in Cantonment, which for me is about an hour and 15 minutes away. So hour 15 there, hour 15 back. Property manager is not able to keep an eye on it. So when the tenant moved out and it was completely horrifically infested because the tenant didn't take care of anything, I said, that is a problem child. It needs to go too. So 2 of those we kicked off the bucket real fast. I'm going to take that money and then recirculate it into these broken houses over here that the hurricane has created. There's a lot of motivated sellers. There's a lot of broken homes, and I believe that I can take that money and have a bigger upside with it than if it stayed in that little rental house that's so far away. So got it under contract. It's moving out of here, and we've basically taken it from a 5 portfolio piece of property to 2 houses in our home. Sold off the 2, and it just made a lot of sense to do that. See, with forbearance setting in next year, foreclosure setting in next year, we're looking at 6 months here, and we're going to see a lot of properties come on the market. I think 11% is what we were seeing with forbearance. And yeah, man, they're just kicking it at the end of the loan on some of them, but some of these loans are not those type of loans. You're going to see some loans that they've got to cough up the money at the end of this forbearance. 4, 5, 6 months. They got to cough up all of it. And when that happens, they're not going to be able to do it. There's going to be a lot of properties coming on the market. Now, don't think that I'm don't have a heart about people losing their house. I'm strictly speaking on the financial portion of rental real estate. So in conclusion, I'll take my money from the little house in Cantonment. Good return. I'll get my money back. I'll be able to come back to this side of town, probably buy something with a better spread, and or even get a low interest loan and try to play with something bigger. I've learned that there is a price category of houses that if you have a bunch of them, they're worth it. If you had 10 houses with making $700 a month times 10, that's worth it. But when a service call is still going to cost you the same amount, an insurance policy is going to pretty much floor at the same amount. Lawyers are the same amount. All the things going on with a rental company, having one outlier on a way far side of town is just not worth it. You gotta kind of consolidate them, and being a distant landlord is a lot harder than you think. And Samantha paid off her house, paid off her student loans. For her, that was a good move to get rid of her student loans. Her student loans were at 11% interest rate, which is mind-boggling. Now she's debt-free and life's a lot easier and don't have that over there getting destroyed. I've learned that I want my personal financial statement to be rock solid before I start getting really risky pushing money out and being aggressive. Your home, your base, everything, your core has to be solid before you go out that way. Just my opinion, my 2 cents. And don't hate me for, you know, talking about one politician or another or looking like I lean one way or the other. For me, the political dynamic, I'll throw my vote in there this month and I'll keep it moving, because there's really not a lot I can do with that but place my vote and keep moving. These are policies that affect me as a landlord, me as a real estate investor, and you have to talk about issues going forward that create risk in the market and might affect the way you look at real estate. You have to talk about it. You can't beat around the bush about it. And I think those policies are going to hurt as a real estate investor. Just being honest, just giving my thoughts out there. And if you've got a different opinion, comment down below. We'll have a good conversation about it, and no harm, no foul. Policies are about talking and learning and discussing and negotiating, and we all have a difference of opinion. See, this is going to create a lot of opportunity to pick up houses significantly undervalued, probably with some damage, because the people that are usually getting evicted, tired landlords, or we're getting foreclosed on, are probably going to destroy some of these houses as they move out. That's just the way it always happens. People get mad, they flush rags down toilets, they pour cement down toilets, and sometimes you can come up with some deals because people just don't want to deal with it. And if you got your work hat on, sometimes you can get this stuff done and pick up a good property. So that being said, those are the reasons why I've decided to sell off some of my properties and get rid of the ones that were hard to manage, weren't really you know, for the money and the headache, not my best ones. So that's my point of view on rental real estate right now, that the political dynamic is just not suitable. The financial market and the rules of rental real estate, like in the next 6 months, is not really there to say, I want to hold these. I want to raise cash because there's going to be a lot of deals coming on the market. And I think that I can get a better return on my money taking the gains now, paying the taxes in this tax year, because I don't know what it's going to be next year. It has nothing to do with who one person is supporting over the other. If I think my taxes are going to be higher next year, I'm going to take my gains this year, and then I'm going to sit back with a lot of cash and look for some opportunities, which are going to be there. And if they don't come, I'll just sit tight, because I have learned over the years that opportunities happen and you've got to be able to have the cash set aside to jump on that opportunity and to make things happen. So yes, I will be buying more rental real estate. Was it a mistake buying those houses? No, I'm going to put money in my pocket. Samantha paid off all her debt. There's really not much more we could have asked. They were great investments. My house has appreciated a ton. The one I'm living in here, which was one of my original rental properties. And we loved living in it, and our neighborhood's changing. I bought it way under value, and now it's exploded in value. And that's the power of real estate, is to leverage a big asset and make money. And I hope this video helped one person, and comment down below if you got any questions, and I'm gonna try to make another video on the horrors of what my tenants did to some of my properties. Comment down below if you want that one. I'll see you guys in the next video, because there's not a lot of fishing stuff going on because you can't even get to the beach. The bridge is literally gone for like the next year. I'll see you guys later.